Whispers of the Abandoned Manor. Ever since I was a child, the old abandoned manor at the edge of town had been a source of fascination and dread. Its towering facade, adorned with crumbling pillars and ivy-covered walls, loomed over the surrounding landscape like a forgotten sentinel of the past. Despite the warnings of the townsfolk and the whispered tales of tragedy that surrounded it, I had always been drawn to the mystery that shrouded the decaying mansion. Little did I know that my curiosity would lead me to uncover secrets far darker than I could have ever imagined. It was a chilly autumn evening when I finally decided to venture into the depths of the haunted house. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the overgrown garden as I approached the imposing wrought iron gates. They groaned in protest as I pushed them open, their rusty hinges protesting the intrusion of an unwelcome visitor. As I crossed the threshold into the overgrown garden, a sense of unease settled over me like a heavy blanket. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the once majestic rose bushes lay wilted and forgotten, their thorns reaching out like skeletal fingers in the gathering darkness. With each step I took towards the looming mansion, the feeling of being watched intensified, and a chill ran down my spine. I tried to shake off the sensation, attributing it to my own nerves. But deep down, I knew that there was something more sinister at play. The front door stood before me, its paint peeling and its windows shattered, yet still holding an air of foreboding. With a trembling hand, I pushed it open, the hinges groaning in protest as I stepped into the dimly lit foyer. The interior was even more decrepit than I had imagined. The once grand staircase, now a crumbling relic of a bygone era. Dust-covered furniture littered the halls, and the walls were adorned with faded portraits of long-dead ancestors, their eyes seeming to follow me as I moved deeper into the house. I had no plan, no goal other than to satisfy my own morbid curiosity, and yet, as I explored the labyrinthine corridors of the mansion, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn towards something dark and malevolent that lurked in the shadows. As I reached the upper floors of the house, the sense of dread grew more palpable, and I found myself hesitating before each closed door, fearing what lay beyond. But it was a door at the end of a long, narrow hallway that drew me in, its wood warped and weathered, yet still intact despite the ravages of time. With a deep breath, I pushed it open, and what I saw inside would haunt me for the rest of my days. The room beyond was small and cramped, its walls lined with shelves upon shelves of dusty books and strange, arcane artifacts. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay, and the only light came from a single flickering candle on a makeshift altar at the center of the room. But it was not the sight of the room that chilled me to the bone. It was the figure that stood before the altar, its back turned to me as it muttered incantations in a language I could not understand. I froze, rooted to the spot by fear as the figure turned to face me, its eyes burning with an otherworldly fire. It was then that I realized the truth: the old manor was not just abandoned. It was cursed, and I had stumbled upon the source of its dark power. With a scream, I turned and fled from the room, my heart pounding in my chest as I raced through the twisting corridors of the house. I could feel the presence of the entity behind me, its malevolent gaze burning into my back as I ran, urging me to return and become another victim of its insatiable hunger. But I refused to let it claim me. With every ounce of strength I had left, I pushed myself forward, stumbling and tripping over debris as I made my way towards the front door. And then, finally, I burst out into the cool night air, collapsing onto the ground in exhaustion as the old manor loomed behind me, silent and watchful once more. I never returned to that accursed place. but the memory of what I saw that night will haunt me forever. The old manor may have been abandoned by the living, but the darkness that dwells within its walls will never truly die, lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim its next victim. Echoes of the Forsaken. The chill of the autumn air seeped through my jacket, as I stood before the dilapidated Victorian mansion that loomed like a shadowy sentinel at the edge of town. The old place had always been the subject of whispered tales and ghostly rumours, but tonight, curiosity overpowered my rational mind, driving me to explore its haunted halls. With hesitant steps, I crossed the threshold, the creaking of the ancient floorboards beneath me echoing through the empty foyer. Dust motes danced in the dim light that filtered through broken windows, casting eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper. As I ventured deeper into the mansion, a sense of unease settled over me like a heavy shroud. Each room I entered seemed frozen in time, filled with forgotten relics and faded memories. But it was the whispers that sent a shiver down my spine, voices that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, pleading for release from their eternal torment. Ignoring the warning bells in my mind, I pressed on, driven by a morbid curiosity to uncover the secrets hidden within the mansion's walls. It was in the grand ballroom that I found it, a dusty old phonograph, its brass horn gleaming in the faint light. With trembling hands, I wound the crank and set the needle to the record, the scratchy strains of a long-forgotten melody filling the room. But as the music played, a chill wind swept through the ballroom, extinguishing the candles and plunging me into darkness. In the blackness, I felt a presence, a malevolent force that seemed to surround me, suffocating me with its icy touch. Panic seized me, and I fled blindly through the maze-like corridors, the whispers growing louder with each passing moment. Finally, I stumbled upon a door that shouldn't have been there, its wood ancient and weathered, yet somehow intact amidst the decay. With nowhere else to turn, I pushed it open, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I descended into the depths of the mansion, the darkness swallowing me whole. But as I reached the bottom, I was greeted by a sight that chilled me to the bone. A vast, cavernous chamber, its walls lined with cages that contained the restless spirits of the mansion's former inhabitants. In the center of the chamber stood a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. It spoke in a voice that seemed to reverberate through my very soul, promising eternal torment for daring to disturb its domain. With a scream, I turned and fled, the echoes of the figure's laughter following me as I raced back through the mansion's corridors. And as I burst out into the cool night air, I knew that I had narrowly escaped the clutches of the haunted house, but the memory of that night would haunt me forever, a reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows, waiting to claim its next victim.